the medical papers scattered across Cyrus Blackwood's mahogany desk like tombstones. 3 different doctors, 3 different hospitals, all saying the same damn thing. He crushed the latest report in his fist and threw it against the stone fireplace. 43 years old and shooting blanks. His voice echoed through the empty mansion halls. 6,000 acres of prime valley land, oil rights stretching to the horizon, cattle herds worth more than most towns. All of it meaningless without blood to carry the Blackwood name forward. A knock interrupted his rage. Maria, the housekeeper, led in a woman he'd never seen before. Dark hair pulled back severe, eyes that seemed to catalog everything they touched. Maybe 30, maybe older. Hard to tell with women like her. Mr. Blackwood, I'm Elena Vasquez. I didn't send for anyone. No, sir. I came about your situation. Her gaze drifted to the crumpled papers on the floor. How the hell do you know about that? Word travels fast in small places, especially when it concerns the richest man in 3 counties. Cyrus studied her face. Something familiar lurked beneath those sharp features. What do you want? To help you, lady. I've tried everything. Specialists from Dallas to Denver. Not everything. Elena stepped closer, her boots silent on the Persian rug. My grandmother knew ways, old ways. Ways that work when your modern medicine fails. Superstitious nonsense. You have an empire here, Mr. Blackwood. What good is any of it without someone to inherit? The words hit harder than any diagnosis. Cyrus felt the weight of generations of Blackwood blood, all leading to this dead end. What are you offering? I can give you an heir. 2, actually. Twins. Twin boys. Strong, healthy, bearing your name. Cyrus's heart hammered against his ribs. For what price? Elena's smile never reached those calculating eyes. We'll discuss terms later. First, let me prove what I can do. And if this old wives' tale doesn't work, then you've lost nothing but time. But if it does work, it's picked up one of the medical reports from the floor. If it works, you'll have everything you ever wanted. Lena walked ahead of Cyrus through the overgrown path behind his mansion. Her boots crushed dead leaves as they approached the stone chapel his grandfather had built decades ago. The building stood empty now, windows broken, vines crawling up its walls like fingers. This place has been abandoned for 20 years, Cyrus said. It's perfect. Old places hold power better. Lena pushed open the heavy wooden door. Inside, dust particles danced in shafts of moonlight. The altar still stood at the front, covered in bird droppings and decay. What's your price? Cyrus asked. Marriage? Legal and binding. That's it. And half claim to your land. In writing. Cyrus's jaw tightened. Half my property. Insurance. You want heirs? I need security. What else? Complete trust. No questions about my methods. Elena knelt beside the altar and scraped away debris, revealing symbols carved deep into the stone floor. Strange markings that hurt to look at directly. These aren't Christian symbols, Cyrus said. No, they're much older. Lena pulled a knife from her jacket. The blade gleamed silver in the pale light. Your hand. What? Give me your hand. Cyrus hesitated. Elena grabbed his wrist and drew the knife across his palm. Blood welled up dark and thick. She cut her own hand and pressed their wounds together over the carved symbols. This is insane. This is necessary. Their combined blood dripped onto the ancient markings. Elena began to chant in a language that sounded like wind through dead trees. The words seemed to echo from the chapel walls themselves, growing louder with each syllable. What are you saying? Calling in old debts. Opening old doors. The temperature in the chapel dropped 20 degrees. Cyrus's breath came out in visible puffs. The shadows in the corners began to move, shifting and writhing like living things. Elena, what's happening? She didn't answer. Her chanting grew faster, more urgent. The blood on the floor began to glow with a sickly green light. Something groaned deep beneath the chapel, as if the earth itself was waking up. The pact is sealed, Alina whispered. The shadows lunged forward, wrapping around both their bodies like hungry smoke. 3 months pass like a fever dream. Elena's belly swelled faster than any pregnancy Cyrus had ever seen. The ranch hands whispered among themselves, crossing themselves when they thought he wasn't looking. Boss, you need to see this. Jake called from the south pasture. Cyrus rode out to find 12 head of cattle arranged in a perfect circle, all dead. No wounds, no signs of struggle, just death written in the grass like some ancient language. What the hell happened here? Don't know, sir. Found them this morning. Crops are dying too. Same pattern. Cyrus walked the circle's edge. The grass beneath the dead animals had turned black, spreading outward in spirals that hurt to follow with his eyes. That night he found Alina in the parlor, hands resting on her impossibly large belly. She was speaking to someone he couldn't see. Yes, I know. Soon now. Very soon. Alina, who are you talking to? She turned, her eyes unfocused and strange. 'Tis the children. They're restless. Children don't talk in the womb. These do. Lena stood and walked past him, heading for the back door. Cyrus followed her into the moonlit yard. She moved like a sleepwalker toward the family cemetery on the hill. Alina, where are you going? She didn't answer. Her bare feet carried her between the weathered headstones to the oldest grave, marked only with a simple cross. She knelt there and pressed her palms to the earth. They're calling to their grandfather, she whispered. Whose grandfather? Asterisk, the children's. He's been waiting so long. Cyrus grabbed her shoulders and shook her. Lena, wake up. Talk to me. Her eyes snapped into focus, but what looked back at him wasn't entirely Alina anymore. You wanted heir, Cyrus, but some bloodlines run deeper than yours. What does that mean? The children I carry aren't fully human. They belong to something much older than your family name. That's impossible, is it? Look around you. Dead cattle in circles. Crops withering in patterns your science can't explain. Alina stood and brushed dirt from her knees. This land remembers, Cyrus. It remembers what your grandfather buried here, what your father covered up. The children know too. Know what? Everything. Every secret. Everybody. Every lie that built your empire. Lightning flashed overhead without thunder. In that brief illumination, Cyrus saw other shapes standing among the headstones, watching them with hollow eyes. Sheriff Hawkins pulled up to the Blackwood mansion in his dusty patrol car, badge catching the morning sun. He'd known Cyrus since they were boys, back when power in the county was simpler to understand. Morning, Cyrus. Need to ask some questions about your livestock. What about them? 12 head found dead in a perfect circle. Veterinarian says he's never seen anything like it. Cyrus led the sheriff into the parlor where Alina sat, her pregnancy now impossible to ignore. 7 months along, but looking ready to give birth any day. This is my wife, Alina, ma'am. Hawkins tipped his hat. You folks notice anything strange lately? Unusual visitors, trespassers. No strangers, Alina said, but the land remembers things. Old things come again. Alina's eyes fixed on the sheriff with unsettling intensity. Tell me, Sheriff, what do you know about Samuel Vasquez? Hawkins went rigid. That name hadn't been spoken aloud in 30 years. Never heard of him, liar. My father worked this land before Cyrus's father killed him for it. Alina, what are you talking about? Cyrus stepped between them. Samuel Vasquez was murdered in 1963, shot in the back while trying to defend his family's homestead. Your father buried him in an unmarked grave and forged the land documents. That's impossible, is it? Check the county records. Look for the gaps, the missing files. Sheriff Hawkins felt sweat beading on his forehead. There were others too, Alina continued. Maria Santos, John Crowfeather, anyone who stood in the way of Blackwood expansion. You're talking about ancient history. I'm talking about justice. Lena stood, her massive belly making her movement awkward, but her voice deadly calm. These children I carry, they're not your heirs, Cyrus. They're instruments of vengeance. What do you mean? When they're born, they'll inherit everything. Every acre, every dollar. But they'll serve my family's memory, not yours. This is insane. This is long overdue. Alina turned to the sheriff. How does it feel knowing you've spent 30 years protecting murderers? The sheriff's hand moved unconsciously toward his weapon. The storm hit like the wrath of something ancient and hungry. Lightning split the sky as Alina doubled over in the parlor, her water breaking across the Persian rug in a rush of blood and fluid. Get the doctor, Cyrus shouted to Maria. No doctors, Lena's voice cut through the thunder. They won't understand what's coming. You need medical help. I need you to stay out of my way. Lena crawled toward the fireplace, her breathing coming in sharp gasps. Rain hammered the windows like fists, demanding entry. Another contraction seized her and she screamed, but the sound wasn't entirely human. Something's wrong. Let me call someone. Nothing's wrong. Everything's finally right. Okay. The lights flickered and died. In the darkness, Elena's labor continued, with only lightning to illuminate her pain. Cyrus knelt beside her, feeling helpless as primal forces took control. I can see them, Alina whispered between contractions. They're ready. Their thoughts. They're sharing dreams already. The first twin emerged in a flash of lightning, silent and alert. No crying, just wide eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. The second followed minutes later, identical except for the way they both turned their heads toward the cemetery hill. They know, Alina breathed. Know what? Where the bodies are buried. As if summoned by her words, the twins began to make soft sounds, not crying, but something like chanting. The storm outside shifted, wind patterns changing direction toward the family graveyard. Lena, they're not crying. Babies are supposed to cry. These aren't ordinary babies. Cyrus studied the twins' faces. No resemblance to himself. Nothing familiar in their features, except an ancient weight behind their infant eyes. They're not mine, are they? No, they belong to my bloodline, to my father's memory. Then, what was all this for? Justice. They'll inherit everything through your name, but serve my family's vengeance. Thunder crashed directly overhead. Through the windows, Cyrus saw something impossible. The ground around the property was moving, heaving upward like breathing earth. Skeletal hands broke through the soil near the old well. A ribcage emerged by the barn. The storm was bringing up the dead. Oh God, it's not listening tonight. Alina cradled both twins as they continued their eerie harmonizing. But the land is, and is finally ready to tell its secrets. 2 years later, the twins walked with an eerie purpose that unsettled everyone who saw them. They never spoke to Cyrus, only to each other in whispers that sounded like wind through grass. This morning, they tugged at Alina's dress, leading her toward the old barn. What is it, Mios? The boys, identical except for the scars on their palms from birth, pointed to a loose floorboard. Alina pried it up, revealing a metal box filled with documents, photographs, and a ledger written in Cyrus's father's handwriting. Jesus Christ. The ledger detailed every murder, every forged deed, every family driven from their land. Photos showed Samuel Vasquez's body, Maria Santos lying in a ditch, 12 other victims whose names had been erased from county records. Sheriff Hawkins arrived an hour later, his face gray as old bone. Lena called me. Said you had something to show me. Cyrus stood in the barn doorway, watching his empire crumble. The twins flanked Alina like small sentinels, their eyes never leaving his face. It's all here, Sheriff. Every crime, every cover-up. Hawkins flipped through the evidence with shaking hands. Cyrus Blackwood, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and fraud. Admit, I didn't kill anyone. That was my father. You've been living on stolen land for 40 years, profiting from blood money. The statute of limitations doesn't apply to ongoing fraud. Elena's voice cut through his protests. These documents prove continuous criminal conspiracy. As Hawkins cuffed him, Cyrus looked at the twins. They're not mine, are they? They never were. No, my grandmother was a curandera. She cursed your bloodline before she died. No true Blackwood heir would ever inherit this stolen land. Then what are they? Instruments of justice. They're here to return everything to the families your father destroyed. One twin whispered to the other in their strange language. Both nodded solemnly. What did they say? Elena smiled for the first time since he'd known her. They said the land remembers its real name now, and it's ready to go home. 5 years passed like seasons, finally allowed to change naturally. Elena walked through her garden while the twins played in the dirt. Their laughter echoing across the land that had learned to breathe again. No more dead cattle. No more withering crops. Just Earth doing what Earth was meant to do. Mama! Look what we found, Diego called, holding up an old arrowhead. Very nice, mijo. Put it back where you found it. Why? It belongs to the land, just like we do. The boys were 8 now, growing strong and tall. Their supernatural strangeness faded into ordinary childhood curiosity. They spoke to each other in normal voices, played normal games, asked normal questions about the world. Elena drove into town once a month to visit the state prison. Today, she sat across from Cyrus in the visiting room, separated by reinforced glass. He looked older than his years, gray hair thinning, eyes hollow as abandoned wells. How are they? He asked through the phone. They're not your concern anymore. No. I just wondered. They're healthy, happy. They don't remember you. Cyrus nodded, accepting this truth like all the others. The land is healing. The families your father destroyed, their descendants, are coming home. I'm selling parcels back to them at fair prices. That's good. Zit. You sound different. Prison changes a man, especially when he has time to think about what his father really was. Elena studied his face through the glass. Didn't come here for your repentance, Cyrus. Then why? To tell you, it's over. Your bloodline ends with you. My family's future grows strong on land that finally knows peace. Will you ever forgive me? Forgiveness isn't mine to give, but the land has moved on. The dead have found their rest. Lena hung up the phone and walked away. Outside the prison walls, the sky stretched wide and clean above fields that remembered their true names. Tonight, she would go home to her sons, who were growing up free from the weight of old sins, rooted in soil that had finally learned to trust again.